Good morning, dear devotees. If any of you are online, we're here at the new Goloka temple, and we thank you for joining us also. Can this go a little lower? Yeah. Oh, good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhan Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhan Hari Yasodhanandana Prajajanaranjana Yasodhanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Anachari Yamuna Tira Anachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhan Hari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhan Hari Yasodhanandana Prajajanaranjana Yasodhanandana Prajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Panachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jaya Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Radha Golokananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Bhagavatarya Stotara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bhagavatarya Stotara Satashi Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Nam Acharya Sridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shama Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavana Dham ki jai. Shri Mathura Dham ki jai. Shri Dwarka Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Shri Navadvip Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannatha Swami ki jai. Shri Yamunamai ki jai. Gangamai ki jai. Shri Mati Tulasi Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lordship Shri Shri Radha Golokananda. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So today we will continue our study, Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 49th chapter, 16th verse. And there's a possibility we might segue into the 17th because the two of them are completely interrelated. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we thank you all for coming, and we shall continue with the verse. Yasyan Rajanam Abetya. Yasyan Rajanam Abetya. Yasyam Rajanam Abetya. Vishanam Puja Lalasam. Vishamam Puja Lalasam. Avadat Suridam Maje. Avadat Suridam Maje. Avadat Suridam Maje. Mandubi. Madhubi. Surodotitam. Surodotitam. Yasamajanam Abetya. Vishamam Pujalalasam. Avadat Suri Dhammaje Bandhubi Surudoditam Yasyam Rajanam Abeja Vishamam Pujalalasam Avadat Suri Dhammaje Bandhubi Suridoditam. My dear devotees, you can repeat. Yasam Rajanam Abeja Vishamam Pujalalasam Avadat Suri Dhammaje Bandhubi Sorudoditam Yasam Rajana Babecha Vishanam Bhutalalasam Avadat Suri Dhammaje Bandhubi Sorudoditam Yasam Rajanam Abecha Vishamam Pujalalasam Avadat Suri Dhammaje Bandhubi Soridoditam. Anyone else? So we'll continue with the word for word. Yasyam, when he was about to go. Rajanam, King Dhritarashtra. Abecha, going to. Vishamam, biased. Putra, toward his sons. Lalasam, ardently affectionate. Avadat, he spoke. Suridam, relatives. Maje, among. Bandhubi, by well-wishing relatives. Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. Surida, in friendship. Uditam, what has been said. Translation. The ardent affection of King Dhritarashtra felt for his sons had made him act unjustly toward the Pandavas. Just before leaving, Akrura approached the king, who was seated among his friends and supporters, and relayed to him the message that his relatives, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, had sent out of friendship. Translation. The ardent affection King Dhritarashtra felt for his sons had made him act unjustly toward the Pandavas. Just before leaving, Akrura approached the king, who was seated among his friends and supporters, and related to him the message that his relatives, Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, had sent out of friendship. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatarine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Shrimati Vedananda Goswami Iti Namane Om Gana Timarandasya Gana Gana Shalakaya Chaksumilitanyana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'm going to read these very short commentaries and then continue. The last week, there was an audiobook that came out by my spiritual master called The Great Bharata. And it was 10 hours long, and it started with the history that began in the time, much earlier time, and it very much involves Satyavati, Shantanu, giving us a whole history of the Mahabharata in a way that was very attractively presented, and also in a way that was very true to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because it's been understood, Madhavacharya himself said, and even different scholars said, the Mahabharata itself, where there's many different aspects of it that come and go and that have been added over time. So it's very hard to find the critical text. So this, what he presented, is kind of like a historical novel, but it helps you to go deeper into understanding who are these personalities. And one of the importance of the Mahabharata and also these different pastimes within the Srimad Bhagavatam is that often it's very hard for us to hear direct philosophy when it relates to us. That's why in the Srimad Bhagavatam you have the story of Puranjana, which is an allegory. It's like, O king, once upon a time. So here, when we hear about Dhritarashtra and we hear about his attachment to his sons, and we know from Bhagavad Gita what this is going to lead to, it's a very important lesson for all of us. So even one might be not having children and think, well, that doesn't apply to me. But this is speaking about attachment that blinds us from seeing the truth, that colors our vision, that leads us to associate with unfavorable people and to not hear the good advice of those that care about us. So I'm going to continue now with Commentator Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur. He went along with his friends like Vidura and spoke he went along with friends like Vidura and spoke friendly words to Dhritarashtra, who was among his friend Suridam, such as Bhishma and others. So here he's going with Vidura. Vidura is his half-brother. As we know, Vidura is the son of Vyasa, as is Dhritarashtra, actually. So Vidura, by nature, is favorably inclined, and especially to the Pandavas. He sees how unjustly they're being treated. So he had actually given information to Akrura, as did Kunti, how the Pandavas were being unjustly treated, how their mother was suffering. And Akrura has reached the point like, I've had enough. Enough's enough. I'm going to go back. I'm going to tell Krishna what's going on there. So here we see that Lord Krishna and Balaram, they had actually sent a message out of friendship. So we see that Krishna is a friend of everyone. And he's always trying to give us a message. And he was trying to give a message to Dhritarashtra, like, you can stop these activities now. You can change the course of events. But Dhritarashtra's own attachment to his sons, and not just attachment to his sons, Dhritarashtra had, I would say from a modern day psychological point, he had issues. He had issues because he was blind and he wasn't able to, as the eldest son, rightfully rule the kingdom. And the kingdom at the time of his father, was without a ruler. And so Pandu, he was the rightful ruler. Pandu was the rightful ruler, actually. But because of a curse, Pandu went into the forest, as we all have spoken about, with the understanding that when the Pandavas grew older, that they would be, Yudhisthira, the oldest, would be the ruler. Because Dhritarashtra was blind, he really wasn't able to rule. He was very, very powerful and very, very strong, but he couldn't see, visually. So Dhritarashtra always had this unhappiness within his heart and envy that he didn't get to be in that position. He didn't get to be in that position. So when Pandu left his body because of a curse, and he went to have an affair with his wife Madri, at that time, the Pandavas, as we know, were brought back to Hastinapura, and they were put under the care of Dhritarashtra. So this is a very important point, too. If someone is put under your care, whether you're guru or parent or teacher or temple president, father, mother, someone comes and takes shelter of you, it is your duty to treat them properly. And the duty of the king is very, very important. With every position within society, there is great importance according to their status in life. So we see in the life of Lord Ram how he was very much concerned with doing the proper duty, with making sure that his subjects were happy, of taking care of everyone's welfare. And he didn't favor his own sons. Now, it is explained that Dhritarashtra, he did look after the welfare of the citizens besides the Pandavas. And so people were not unhappy with him. But Vidura knew what was going on. He was very aware of it because Vidura had clear vision and he had a pure heart. Jiva Goswami, Dhritarashtra had a great desire to put his sons on the throne, Putra Lasanam. Akrura spoke to the king, seated amongst his friends, in order to cause the king shame. So Akrura he was thinking, he's amongst his friends. Bhishma's there. Certainly they'll agree with me. Vidura will agree with me, and the king will feel shame. He'll realize that he has to rectify his ways. But as we know, that didn't happen. He approached the king, who had agreed, had trespassed Dharma, and took someone else's kingdom. Thus he acted unqualified Vishamam to his sons. Thus he acted unequaled Vishanam to his sons and his brother's sons. So the whole Mahabharata speaks about the importance of Dharma. It doesn't speak so much in this aspect about pure devotional service like we're given in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Nyavilasitashjanyam Jnana Karmada Avritam. But it speaks so much about the importance of Dharma. And if one does things in line with Dharma, then there is all success in this life and in another. And one goes against Dharma, then all havoc breaks out. So the king, he had trespassed Dharma. This was someone else's kingdom. It didn't belong to him. And he treated his sons differently than he treated the Pandavas. So it's understood amongst a low-class person who has no position that if they have some attachment, it doesn't affect the whole world, And we see them when we go back in history to the fisherman who was a foster father of Satyavati. He had attachment not only to the son he didn't have, but to the son and the grandsons that he wouldn't have. And because of that, he had Shantanu take a vow, I will not get married, I will not have children. And that vow was, Bhishma. The vow that Bhishma took caused such havoc. And I'm going to actually go back a little bit to that. So when we go back in time, we see that all these different personalities are very related with each other. So we have the Kuru dynasty, which was the main dynasty that was ruling for many, many years. And then there was the Chedi dynasty, which had become very prominent. Actually, Jarasandha actually ends up taking birth in the Chedi dynasty. So as we've spoken about many times, this planet, the Earth planet, was actually a very peaceful place. And those who wanted to take over the earth, the demoniac, they wanted to take it over because they wanted it like a base. They understood that because they had displeased their spiritual master, Sukacharya, because they had displeased him, that they had lost their strength. So fighting directly with the demigods would not work. So then they came up with a plan that they wanted to kill Vishnu. It was a crazy plan, but that was their plan. We can kill Vishnu. And then they saw it backwards. They thought, well, Vishnu, he only exists because he receives the different sacrifices made by the Brahmins. So at that time, the Brahmins were doing sacrifices all the time. That was the method of worship. So they're always doing sacrifices. And so because of that, those that were demonic, they thought, well, let's go and destroy the Brahmanas. But they knew if they went against Dharma, because Sukacharya told them, don't go against Dharma. They knew if they went against Dharma that they would lose. So they couldn't fight directly. So then their plan was some of them would take birth in the form of beasts, because animals don't incur karma. So then all of a sudden, in this peaceful planet, it was noticed that different animals were starting to attack the Brahmins and the sages and causing havoc. And this was part of the plan of the those demoniac to take over, the asuras to take over, was to gradually take over Earth. But how are they going to take over Earth? They couldn't unjustly take the kingdom. Like here we see Dhritarashtra's unjustly taking the kingdom. But their way to take over the earth was actually take birth in the family of lines of just kings. So we hear a lot about Jarasandha, and Jarasandha, he ends up down the line appearing in the line of Vasu in Chedi. So everything is very intrigued. And what do we learn from this? There's not much time to explain all this, but what we learn from this so much is that Krishna works very long term, and we don't always see the picture. We don't always see why things are happening the way they happen. But over time, we see that the Lord had a plan. So, for instance, in this particular pastime, we see that Shantanu, he was married to Ganga. And then Ganga left to go back to the heavenly kingdom. And Shantanu was just like lamenting and lamenting and lamenting. He had lost the desire to live. But then he met Satyavati, and he became very much wanting to have Satyavati be his wife. And he had already had a son, Devavrata, who he had with Ganga, and Ganga had taken him away and just brought him back. And he was an amazing personality, Devavrata, and very dedicated to his father, and very beautiful and very young. So basically, what happens is that Devavrata sees that his father is very unhappy, and he's trying to understand what's going on. Then he finds out that Devavrata finds out that his father had spoken to the foster father of Satyavati, and he had made a condition that you could only marry my foster daughter under the condition that you won't have a son, and your sons won't have sons. So for that reason, he took this vow, I will never get married. And not only that, he asked for another vow, that you will only fight on the side of the Kurus. You will only support the Kurus. So here is David Brutta. He's just a teenager. He doesn't realize what this is going to bring. He has no idea. And Satyavati herself, she warns him, don't take this vow. You don't realize how much difficulty will come from this vow. Don't take this vow. So we often hear Satyavati was the daughter of a fisherman, but actually it's explained that Satyavati, she was actually the daughter of the king of Chedi, whose name was Vasu, who ruled the whole universe, and he was very just and amazing. And he was originally a Kuru king. He was a Kuru king, but at that time there was no kingdom for him because all the sages had fathered the royal women because Parashuram had slayed all the Kshatriya kings. So the Rajasis, the kings, they were all very peaceful and everybody was just meditating. So that's why the Rakshasas thought, well, we can take over, because they're just meditating. So this Vasu, he didn't have a kingdom, but at the same time he felt he needed a kingdom, but there wasn't one. So he went into the forest. And when he went into the forest, he went in there just to meditate. So as we know, when someone is meditating, and he wanted to go to Indra's planet, that was his desire. I want to go to Indra's planet. So then Indra comes down and appears before him, which was very rare. Indra just didn't come down. Indra comes down and he appears for him. And he tells him, you should stop this because I have a mission for you. Some will say that Indra was envious, but it was actually explained also that there was a mission that was to take place that was going to take generations to manifest. And that was actually to bring Krishna. But in order to bring Krishna, there was so many different things that needed to take place that were going to take place generation by generation. And as I said, how this relates to us. Well, first, what relates to us is due to our family attachments or due to our bodily attachments or our mental attachments. We're not able to see things clearly and we can't take good advice. And that Krishna is working things out long term. So we have to let Krishna's plan unfold. So Indra tells him, actually, I have a mission for you that's very, very important. And you are to, protect the whole earth from the demons. You're to protect the whole earth. And he goes, well, I don't even have a kingdom. How am I going to do that? He said, you'll become the king of Chedi, which was a very wonderful kingdom. You'll become the king of Chedi. And I will empower you to do all of these things. And he's thinking, I don't have anything. I'm just an aesthetic. How am I going to do all these things, So we don't have time to tell the whole story as my Guru Maharaj told it. But he goes to Chedi, and he ends up saving the life of the queen of Chedi, who was a young princess, actually, whose father and mother had recently left. And he becomes a hero within the kingdom of Chedi, becomes a hero. And both him and the queen, I can't remember her name, they get married, etc., etc. And so Vasu rules for many, many years. And Satyavati actually is a twin sister of one of his sons, whose name is Matsya. So he had these wonderful sons, and he has a twin sister. But he realizes, he's also given this amazing airplane that can at at the will. And that's how he slays the demons. And so Satyavati is the daughter, but because it was already known that an avatar was going to come, and Satyavati was going to be the mother of the avatar, that avatar is Vyasa. So because it's known that this avatar is going to come, then they're concerned for her safety, just the same way everyone was concerned for Krishna's safety. So she's hidden. And they said, let's hide her in a place where nobody would think she is. So in some of the stories in the Mahabharata, they say she was eaten by a fish, etc., etc. In this particular presentation, she's actually taken and put under the care in this fisherman village because nobody would look in this like Aborigine village. So she's living there, and she never feels comfortable there. Like we have our own nature. This is another lesson. We have our nature, and sometimes we can feel like I'm in the wrong place, you know. But she's there. But then one day some people come and they speak to her parents, and they have her go to this island where the Brahmanas are. And so she's trained. She's trained by the great sages and Brahmanas, given the whole history of all the dynasties, everything. So she's actually trained up for what her future will be. You know, how she will actually help in the pastimes of Krishna coming. So as things go on, there's so many intricacies that take place. The Mahabharata's done in a very romantic way, because one of the purposes of the Mahabharata actually is to be able to keep the focus of the people for all different classes of people, for them to be understand. So Dhritarashtra, we know he was the son of Shantanu, as was Pandu, and as was my brain's not working. What? Yep, Vidura. But actually, Vidura wasn't really the son of Pandu, because he was actually the real son of Vyasadeva. So basically, when Pandu had to retire, it was very, very difficult for everyone because people loved Pandu. Pandu, his complexion was white because we know that his mother, Ambilika, upon seeing Vedavyas, she turned white. And we know Dhritarashtra's mother, Ambika, she closed her eyes and she turned away. She turned away and she closed her eyes. So she closed her eyes, he became blind, and also he turned away. He also turned away. And then Vidura was born of a maidservant who could appreciate the beauty of his character. So this intrigue kept growing and growing and growing. And Bhishma himself had gone and brought these women back to be married to the son of Satyavati. Satyavati had two sons. One of them had the same name as one of the Gandharvas, and so he was killed by the Gandharva. And the other one, Vicharavira, he was very weak in many ways, and then when he was married with his wives, he just became absorbed in sense gratification, and he left his body untimely. He was just absorbed and left his body. Then there was no one to take over the Kuru dynasty. And Satyavati, she wasn't doing this out of bodily attachment, because she had given the information by Parshamuni that this was a plan of the Lord, and that the Lord himself, Krishna, was going to come, and that they all had a role to play. And her son, Vyasa, was the avatar. He wasn't going to fight, but he was compiling all the Vedas in order to protect the society with the Vedic knowledge. He was given that. And upon birth, he immediately left. So it wasn't like Parshamuni all of a sudden had some attraction, decided to have a relationship with this young woman. It was all planned out, and Parshamuni knew it. He knew the plan, and he actually, through meditation, reveals the plan to Satyavati. This is a plan, and this is the role that you're going to play. You're going to play a major role. So when she's wanting there to be progeny, it's to continue this Kuru dynasty, because she was from the Chedi dynasty. But the problem is that Jarasandha, he was one of those demons that took birth started to take birth in the family of kings. And so the Chedi dynasty was going to become weakened. So the idea was that the Kuru dynasty would be very strong and be able to continue to protect. But Dhritarashtra became a weak link, a very weak link. So as we know, Vyasadeva was called because he told his mother, if you're ever in difficulty, call me. She only saw him. He was born in a minute, grew up, and was gone. But he said, if you ever need me, call me. So he came. So there's so many intricacies involved in this and so many different lessons to learn. One thing we can learn is that to be very careful of our association. Yesterday I was pondering, is Dhritarashtra an asura, that took birth in the dynasty? And then I was reading Krishna book, and I read Prabhupada's commentary on this chapter. And Prabhupada talks about how at the end, when everything was taken away, which Krishna has sometimes done to his devotee, then Dhritarashtra turned towards Krishna. So he wasn't a demon. He was just blind by his attachments. And his attachments were increased because he took bad association that agreed with his offenses, that encouraged his offenses. So for myself, I see that's very important who we take guidance from. Because there were those amongst him that were advising him that were asuras, that had a plan, and they were using him actually like a pawn. His own attachment allowed him to be like a pawn. And unfortunately, within the societies or religious societies too, even within ISKCON, we have seen that, where one could become compromised because of attachment. What? And poor discrimination. Yeah, just poor discrimination. Well, one wants to be justified. So we seek others that will say, yeah, you're right. You're right. What you're doing is right. Don't worry about it, So, this is so much to say, and I obviously can't give a whole kata on the Mahabharata and the different personalities. But all these personalities are very, very interesting personalities as their psychology. And Satyavati is very beautiful. Her strength, her determination, her devotion, and her dedication to Dharma and wanting to serve. And here we see time and time again how Krishna is very fair. Krishna sent with a message. Even at the time of the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna still tried to stop the battle. He still tried to help. That we read about it in Bhagavad Gita. And when we first started reading Bhagavad Gita, didn't know any history about anything. And Prabhupada explains in the beginning that Dhritarashtra was blind due to his attachment to his sons, that he was both spiritually and physically blind. Well, it's time to greet Radha Golokananda, but thank you very much. I hope I didn't ramble on too much. I just kind of wanted to share some of my enthusiasm and realizations on this particular verses. And not a blade of grass moves without Krishna, because I'm listening to all this, and then I get a verse that applies. And I was going to read the next one, but then I decided let someone else have the honor. Yeah, who's speaking tomorrow? Oh, good.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindanalayatasham Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Akom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Asa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Tiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami 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 Govindam Adipurusham
Radhikaramana Narada Muni Bhajaya Vina Radhikaramana Namamani Uditaya Bhakkata Gita Same Namamani Uditaya Bhakkata Gita Same Amiyadara Varishegana Shavana Yuga Lagiya Amiyadara Varishegana Shavana Yuga Lagiya Bhakkata Jana Sagane Nache Variya Panahiya Bhakkata Jana Sagane Nache Variya Apanahiya. Page 53. Madhuri Puri Asava Pashimataya Jakata Jahane Madhuri Pura Asava Pashimataya Jakata Jahane Kehava Kande Kehava Nache Kehamate Mane Mane Kehava kande kehava nache kehamate mane mane Panchavadana narade dhari Premera sagana rolo Dana narade dhari Premera sagana rolo Kamala sana nachiya bhale Volo volo hari volo Vasane nachiya bhale Volo volo hari volo Sahasranana parama sukhe Hari hari vali gaya Sahasranana paramasuke Hari Hari Valigaya Nama Pravave Malita Svishva Nama Rasa Savipaya Nama Pravave Matila Vishva Nama Rasa Savipaya Shri Krishna Nama Rasa Nispuri Purala Amara Asha Shri Krishna Nama Rasa Nispuri Purala Amara Asha Sirupa Pade Jachaye Iha Bhakati Vinoda Dasa Rupa Pade Jachaye Iha Bhakati Vinoda Dasa Narada Muni Bhajaya Vina Ratika Ramana Nave Namuni Bhajaya Vina Radhika Ramana Name Namamani Uditaya Vakata Gita Same Namamani Uditaya Vakata Gita Same Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha, Golokananda Radha, Golokananda Radhe, Golokananda Radha, Golokananda Radha, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. Translation. Narada Muni, the great soul, plays a stringed instrument called a veena, vibrating the sound Radhika Raman, another name for Krishna. As soon as he strokes the strings, all the devotees begin responding, making a very beautiful vibration. Accompanied by the string instrument, the singing seems like a shower of nectar, and all the devotees dance in ecstasy to the fullest extent of their satisfaction. While dancing, they appear madly intoxicated with ecstasy, as if drinking the beverage Madhuri Pura. Some of them cry, some of them dance, and some of them, although unable to dance publicly, dance within their hearts. Lord Shiva, who has 5 heads, embraces Narada Muni and begins talking in an ecstatic voice. And seeing Lord Shiva dancing with Narada, Lord Brahma, whose seat is the lotus flower, also joins, saying, all of you kindly chant, Haribol, Haribol. The king of heaven, Indra, who has thousands of eyes, also gradually joins with great satisfaction and begins dancing and chanting, Haribol, Haribol. In this way, by the influence of the holy name of God, the whole universe becomes ecstatic. Bhakti Thakur says, when the universe becomes ecstatic, my desire is satisfied. I therefore pray unto the lotus feet of Rupa Goswami that this chanting of Hare Nama may go on nicely like this. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Krishna Nam ki jai, or Premanandi Hari Hari Bo.
Chandrika Vitaranam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pratipanam Pranamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Varmidayate Shri Krishna Haribo Nam Namakari Mahuda Nita Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamae Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavadad Bhaktir Ohaitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vabada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrishim Vachintaya Nayanam Galadashru Daraya Vadanam Gad Gadaridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati You Chakshusha Varishayatam Shunayatam Jagatsam Govindam Virahename Slishava Padamratam Panastumam Adarshanam Marmata Karotuva Yatatatava Vidadatu Lampato Mat Prananatastu Saeva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, you can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Shastika Ki Jai.